When you picture a library, what's the first thing you think of? Maybe those quiet aisles, right? Or the smell of old books. Now, what happens when that silent world smashes into the crazy power of the fourth industrial revolution? We're talking AI, robotics, big data. It sounds like two different worlds colliding, doesn't it? Well, today we're going to dig into the research to map out this quiet revolution and see what it tells us about the library of tomorrow. So here's our game plan for today. We'll kick things off with what this whole revolution is about. Then we'll see how the research was actually mapped out. We're going to uncover a pretty shocking explosion in publications, find out who's leading the charge, decode the buzzwords they're all using, and finally, we'll piece it all together to get a glimpse of the library of the future. All right, let's jump in. Okay, first things first. To get our bearings, we need to understand that this whole investigation, well, it really boils down to one fundamental question.
This is the big puzzle, isn't it? You've got one of our oldest, most trusted institutions for knowledge, the library. And on the other hand, you have the absolute newest wave of technology. So how are they supposed to work together? What kind of new doors are opening up, and what new challenges are being created? These are the exact questions that researchers are finally starting to dig into.
And when we talk about all this new tech, the term you'll hear is the Fourth Industrial Revolution, or 4IR for short. Now, this isn't just about your computer getting a little bit faster. No, this is a massive shift where technology is getting woven into every single part of our lives. And as we're about to find out, that definitely includes the library.
So, how in the world do you get a clear picture of a brand new field that's just starting to emerge? Well, the source for this explainer used a really clever scientific method to basically map out the entire landscape of knowledge. Let's take a look.
Now, the fancy name for this is bibliometric analysis, but let's just break it down. Think of it like a detective story. First, you gather all the clues. In this case, every single academic paper written about libraries and 4IR between 2010 and 2021. Then you use special software to find all the connections. Who's writing the papers, where are they from, what words do they keep using over and over? And finally, you create maps and charts to see all those connections visually. It's basically academic detective work. And wow, is it revealing? And the very first major clue this detective work uncovered, it's all about timing. Check this out. For the first half of the last decade, this whole topic was barely even a whisper in the academic world. You might find one, maybe two papers in a year. It was this tiny, super niche subject. But then, as you're about to see, the floodgates just burst open. Okay, now this is where things get really interesting. Just look at this chart. For years, you just see a little trickle of articles. It's practically a flat line. But then look what happens right around 2018. The number of publications just explodes. It goes vertical. This is what it looks like when an idea catches fire, going from almost nothing to a major academic trend in just a couple of years. And the peak of that explosion? Get this. In the single year of 2020, 28 different scientific articles were published on this topic. To give you some perspective, that is more than the entire period from 2010 to 2017 combined. Clearly, something big was happening. So if this whole conversation is exploding, the next logical question is, who's doing all the talking and where is it happening? Well, our data map gives us some really clear answers. So looking at the map, this is definitely a global conversation. But a couple of countries have really become hotspots. The United States is leading the pack with 10 publications, but right behind them is South Africa with 8. And that's fascinating. It shows this isn't just a conversation happening in the usual tech hubs. Then you've got Indonesia right there in the mix too, proving there's major interest from all corners of the globe. And where are people publishing all this research? Well, the number one source is a journal called Library High-Tech News, which makes a lot of sense, right? It's the central hub for this whole discussion. It tells us the conversation is happening exactly where you'd expect it to be, right at that intersection of library science and technology. And of course, it's not just countries and journals, it's people. Our analysis shows that a few key authors, like Matewskowska and Schinwald, are really driving this whole thing, publishing a ton of papers and shaping where the research is headed. So we know when this all started and we know who's involved, but what are they actually talking about? To figure that out, we've got to decode the key words. Now, this map might look a little complicated, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. Remember that detective's evidence board? This is it. Every time two key words show up together in a paper, a line gets drawn between them. The more they appear together, the stronger that connection is. And right away, you can see two distinct groups, two main conversations starting to form. And here is the crucial insight. Over on one side, in that red cluster, you have the core ideas: libraries, library services, and the fourth industrial revolution itself. That's the foundation. But then, over on the other side in green, you've got all the specific technologies: artificial intelligence, digital libraries, and Industry 4.0. So what this map is really showing us is the central challenge everyone is trying to solve. How do you build a bridge between that green cluster of new tech and that red cluster of traditional library functions?
Okay, we've followed the timeline, we've met the key players, and we've decoded the conversations. So what does all this evidence tell us about the library of tomorrow?
Let's just boil it all down. First, this is not a fad. It is a new and rapidly growing area of research. Second, while the conversation is happening worldwide, it has clear centers of gravity in places like the US and South Africa. And maybe most importantly, the real heart of the matter is figuring out how to thoughtfully blend these powerful tools, like AI, with the core human-focused mission that libraries have always had. You know, this research isn't just academic talk. It is actively shaping the libraries in our own communities. It really makes you wonder, in the near future, when you walk into your library, are you going to be checking out a book? Or are you going to be checking out time with an AI research assistant? Or maybe a session in a virtual reality history lab? The revolution isn't coming. It's already underway, happening quietly, right there in the stacks.